go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. This session is a guest presentation from our friends at Elebase. John Franson, the co-founder of Elebase, will share how Elebase helps you to use Mapbox to create and maintain beautiful interactive maps without coding. And for folks who are coming fresh from Chris's session with a lot of code on the screen, this might be a welcome change to hear about other ways that you can get data into Mapbox maps and still have them be beautiful and highly performant. So before we get started, just a couple housekeeping notes from me. We, like all build sessions, this session is being recorded and you will be able to view it after the event and will be available in the Zoom event lobby, as well as post the event. You'll be able to catch up on recordings. We will be saving time for live questions with John. So please, to participate, submit your questions into the Q&A box. It's a little easier for us to track than in the chat. Also, if you would like to have captions or a different language, you can select that using the captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. All right, that's all the logistical notes from me. So with that, I'll welcome our presenter, John, to the virtual stage, and we'll stop sharing so you can start your presentation, John.
Thanks, Marina. I'm going to go ahead and do a share here real fast. And what I want to do is just start by giving just a little bit of context to what I'm presenting, just so that the different parts and pieces make a little bit more sense. And I'm going to be kind of showing you a lot of different things, and maybe without the context, it'll be harder to kind of track. So what we're talking about here is building interactive maps and data without code. One of the things I'm going to show you is actually how you can actually use code using the API. I'm just going to introduce that as an idea and kind of show you, but for the most part, we're going to focus on kind of how to maintain data and then publish that into environments without having to code. So let's start just really basic with this idea of like, what is an interactive map? We probably hear that word, goes around a lot. I'm going to essentially distill it into something really basic, which is when you've got a map feature, a digital map, you can select that feature and you can get information about what that feature is. So the ability to see something, to see a map with a feature on the map and go, oh, I want to know more about that, and to get that information, that makes it an interactive map. That's kind of at its most basic level. There's sort of three parts to an interactive map. Let's start with a base map, and that's a lot of the conversations, and what we're talking about is the many capabilities of Mapbox, the deep customization possibilities and data integration possibilities with Mapbox. But at its heart, Mapbox is a base map. And the reason why we need a base map for our interactive map is because we don't want to go and have to show where all the roads and streets and rivers and towns and stuff in the world are. That's a huge undertaking. And so an interactive map doesn't mean much unless you've got context. Context comes from your base map. The second part is your data. So you usually don't want to publish an interactive map that just shows, here's the world. You usually want to show it in context of your data. And that's kind of a little bit where Elebase comes in. Elebase is a way for you to create and manage your data that you want to put into a base map. Then the third part is the interactivity, and that's where we start talking about the interactive map part of it. So when you have a base map plus your data and then the interactivity, you've got an interactive map. Oftentimes, that interactivity can be built custom using your own code. It does, the very distinct, unique things that you want it to do. So let's talk a little bit more about what your data is. I kind of like to think about your data as two parts. You have geospatial information, which is at its most simple way, it's kind of the points, paths, and area that you represent information on a map with, and those are the geo features. Plus, it's the descriptive content and data that is associated with those geo features. So it could be text, the descriptions of things, numbers like the population number or something like that. It could be photos, video, all kinds of other types of data. And another way to sometimes think about this is data properties. So with Elebase, at its heart, it allows for lots and lots of people to contribute data, non-technical people, to use a fairly straightforward kind of content management screen for the most part, to create the text, the photos, and then the mapping information that they want to contribute to the broader kind of data set. And then that data from Elebase can be published in a variety of ways. You can kind of use that data in a variety of ways. One of those ways is with the HTTP API. So as a very flexible API, you can build entire robust interactive applications and websites and such with that. You can export it as a set of GeoJSON. You can actually publish it into Mapbox as a tile set with the layers kind of already pre-baked for you and all of the property data that will come along with that. And then the third thing I'm going to show you is you can essentially just publish it into a template application, which we're calling Elemap. So I'm going to jump now into just some examples of that, and just so you can see what this means in the real world. So let's start talking first about the API. So this is kind of an interesting project that we're really proud of. It won a Webby Award for one of the best travel websites in the world. It was a project done by UNESCO and National Geographic. And all of this data, it's a very kind of elaborate interactive map with lots of images and descriptions and place information that's kind of combined with maps. And all of the data in this is being powered from the Elebase API. So imagery, text, even the mapping information is all powered from the API. So this is a custom application built using the API. But one of the value propositions of this is that all of the data that people create can be done by non-technical people. So all of this information, the descriptions and the photos and even the map locations and such can be created and maintained by people who aren't developers. We think that it makes a lot more sense if you have, say, 1,000 pieces of data, geographic data. We think sometimes it makes a lot more sense to have 1,000 people each in charge of one piece of information than to have one person in charge of 1,000 pieces of information. It just sometimes it's the ability to maintain and manage the accuracy of that information is sometimes easier when it's distributed like that. So that's the API, and kind of an example of kind of some of the things that can be kind of some of the expressions that people have been built using the API. As you see here also that the data is not only just points on a map. It actually includes, it can include other geospatial information like areas. So let's kind of look under the hood. I'm going to show you a kind of an example project. So this is the Elebase interface. And within the Elebase interface, there's kind of three key things you can do. You can model your information. So the first thing you kind of need to do is to say, like, okay, what is my project about? And what is the structure of the information, like the types of information in the fields that I want to present? What are the geo feature types that I want to use? So in Elebase, there's kind of a way that you can create that structure without having to write any code. It's kind of a WYSIWYG for this. And let's say this is the San Francisco Parks is the data set we're building here. So one of the types of information we have is a camping area. Another type of information we have is a park or protected area. Then we use elements to decide what are the properties that we want to assign to those. So we have there's like 32 different kinds of properties that you can create within Elebase. Anywhere from a Boolean to a contact to a date and time. You can relate entries to files, things like that. And so And then finally, there's the geo features. So these are the point, paths, and polygons, and then the categories of that. So when we say point path, a geo feature type doesn't have to be just a point on the map. It can be the kind of point you want on the map. Let me give you an example of that. Say like you have a path. It can be a dirt path or it could be a paved path. Those are both paths, but they're different kinds of paths. So once you've kind of structured your information, then you can start creating the information. And it's kind of organized around this idea of entries, a little bit like a content management system for digital maps. So if we say here, Sign Hill Park, this is the area where a non-technical user can go ahead and start to upload images, add data. They can even add descriptions using a nice little editor. And then they can also add their mapping information here. And the mapping information can have a little tool set for adding the type of information you want, potentially editing the geo feature types and things like that. So once this information is created, it becomes, and many different users can contribute to that. And as a result of that, you start building a large data set. And that data set can be published in a variety of ways. So here you go to integrate, and you can use the API, access all of this information through the API. You could download this as a GeoJSON file, or I could publish it directly into my Mapbox account as a tile set. So let me show you just what that looks like a little bit within Mapbox. So here's this data set that was created. Then within the Mapbox account, I've added this. This is the GeoJSON data that's been loaded as a data set. And you can see the full data set represented here. And then also all of the property data is also delivered. Now the property data sometimes is going to be just a reference using an ID to the API. So you could go fetch like the images and things like that, just because property, some property data isn't represented very well in either GeoJSON or tile sets. It's better that you have to kind of, you can't put an image into a tile set per se. And then you can take this tile set here, and I could style it in Mapbox. And I'm using Mapbox standard here to kind of style this data set. So here's the representation of that entire data set coming out of the Elebase project. As the data is being updated in Elebase, it can also update automatically within your Mapbox presentation. And as you can see here, that the different geo feature types are separated as layers. Then you can get all of the property data that comes along with that. So once again, all of the property data that has been created and managed in Elebase comes right along and is associated within the data set. So that's so now you have this data that's being maintained in your Mapbox account and as a Mapbox style. You're still looking at this data and you kind of want to click on it and say, well, tell me more about the Honda Creek Preserve. I want to know more about that. So you could use this to build your own interface, to kind of write your own code to retrieve the properties that come with it. Or we also have kind of this new feature that we're calling Elemap, which is essentially a interactive map that you can just publish to, and you can configure and style it, and then just embed this. So this is an example. This is kind of a place that's a little bit near and dear to me, which is Whitefish, Montana, and they have a really great trail system. And so it's all of the trails around Whitefish, Montana. You can kind of see the paths where the routes are. You can select any of these, then you can learn more, like tell me more about Lion Mountain Trails. Okay, so here, this is the element data coming out of Elebase. You can look at the photos. You can see the permitted uses. You can even kind of easily embed videos and such like that in there, so that that's all associated with the data. Now, this data and what we're seeing is been organized to match what the Whitefish Trail systems should have. So if you wanted to do a different kind of map, say like a map that showed real estate properties, or you wanted to do a map that showed where scientific plots are, or things like that, you might have different kinds of data, and you would have a different data model. It's kind of what we call it. But for Whitefish, this is kind of the way that we wanted to do that. Now I can go ahead here and I can kind of style this. And so I can say, I want for my pop-ups, I would like my pop-ups to actually have more of this is kind of a brand color here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to change the brand color. I might want to change my typeface. You can style the slide outs so that what I see here, and then also how my list works. These are the entries. I can kind of style how this looks. I want to go zoom in to the Summit Mountain Bike Trail. Then I can go 3D, and I can kind of configure all of the aspects of this, including how I want to configure my geo feature types. So I say like, I want my paved trails to look a certain way. I want them to look kind of a different way than I want my dirt trails to look. So I can configure all of that in my Elemap presentation, and then go ahead and just embed that and share it with as part of my website, or where I want to use that. Let me give you another example. Just kind of this is a map that I kind of started building just as a partly for fun and also as a demo. Go back here, show you. Also, one of my other favorite places in the world is the Grand Canyon, and so here we've got a project that shows we kind of created a distinct model, and then it has all of these entries of every rapid and every kind of major sites within the Grand Canyon. So we have several types. We have points of interest, we have rapids, and then we have trails. And then for each of those, we kind of have, so here's a rapid, we have the rapid class, the river mile, and then we describe it. We kind of talk about like, what is it and what's the best way to run that rapid. Then we go ahead and we plot that location in the map as a location of the rapid. So when this is published into Elemap, this is what it looks like. So I have here a map of the Grand Canyon with all of its rapids. And another cool thing, that's something that's really powerful about Mapbox that you can do, is kind of control where you view everything. There's a lot of information in this map, and I don't want it all just to be there, so it just looks like a big cluster of nonsense on top of the map. I want to be able to kind of determine when I can display various map features. And so what I've done here is I kind of control it so the major, when you very first look at the map, your major map features, the major locations of the map are going to be viewable. As you zoom in, it's going to start showing you secondary. So these are the major points of interest. Let's look at a few of them. Some of these are really cool. So if you go like Little Colorado Confluence is a major point of interest. You can read about it, see some images for that. There's even like videos. You can do little videos of that. And then as I zoom in closer, I'm going to start seeing the rapids themselves. And the rapids themselves are all in there. And then I can get little descriptions of the rapids. For some of the more complicated rapids, we actually went ahead and added a little video for that. So I think like Sockdolager. So here's a little video of running Sockdolager. So you could go do that and look at that for every little rapid along in the Grand Canyon and see it in 3D. So that's both of these maps, the Whitefish map or this one, they're both were built and published, and you can look at these and they were done entirely without code. So this map right here, I created the content and the data model in Elebase, and I published and kind of styled it in Elemap and kind of configured the base map that Mapbox provides. So these are Mapbox base maps. So, all right, I'll leave it there.
Fantastic, John. You're getting lots of love in the chat. So please, I encourage you to check it out. Lots of people saying it's amazing. The customizability is beautiful. We do have a couple questions here. So maybe let's start with the one from Jennifer that just came in the chat. Jennifer's saying, I manage my data in Mapbox. It's a complex recreation data set, regularly updated to reflect seasonal and emergency closures, but I'm looking for a better app or wrapper to present the data. They have a map template that was built for them, but not quite what they would like. Is it possible to do the map management in Mapbox or outside of Elebase? Or I guess do the data management outside of Elebase, but then create use the wrapper of Elebase to bring it all together.
So with this version is actually using GeoJSON to load the data. We are going to be publishing a version that's kind of similar, but in the map data itself will be coming from a tile set. So it kind of depends on the properties that the data properties that are associated with your features, and if they're as tile sets or not.
Right. So it sounds like if your tile set is in Mapbox, then you could bring it in, you could pair it.
In the next version, yes. In a subsequent kind of version. So we'll have two versions. This is kind of the GeoJSON based one. As you notice there, it kind of takes a minute. You say load map, it has to load all of the data. And with tile sets, you don't really have to do that. It's all kind of just there.
Great. A related question is just a short one. Is Elebase better for large data sets or smaller, more concise data sets?
So you can use it for both. And one reason why you can use it for both is because of tile sets. So you can create an entry, and any entry can have one to many different geo features. So you could have an entry called all the towns in Nebraska, and you would have 5,000 little points within that one entry. And then if you combine that out to 500 entries, you've got a lot of geodata. It's not going to represent very well as GeoJSON, just for some of the the scaling issues that have been talked about, but it will represent really well as tile sets, and you can just publish that into your Mapbox account as tile set data. For smaller data sets, like say like the Whitefish Trail system, or you want to do like a little locator map, or you want to do something that has maybe a few thousand points of information, or kind of a few thousand geo features, Elebase is really, you can do that using GeoJSON or just through the API. Just grab the data through the API.
Michael asks, how does the experience work both for content creation and the public end user experience? How does it work on mobile?
Yeah, so you go back into this. The Elebase app has a kind of a content management screen. Now, what we're seeing here is what's called a manager user would see. So a manager user, they can see the data they can model the data, they can see the integration and stuff. If you're what's called a contributor user, you don't see all of that. What you really see is just the create screens, and then you can only see your entries. You can't see other people's entries. That said, it's all kind of mobile friendly, so you can the data management screens are kind of designed for non-technical users, and then also for access via a mobile application, sometimes for just field editing and such.
Mhm. Fantastic. Let's see, there's a bunch of questions in here. I think we might run out of time. Just so we don't run out of time, John, how can folks get in touch with you to learn more or to follow up on some of these questions?
Yeah, definitely. Let me just give you my email address, which is John, John, at elebase.io. And I'd love to, help you through kind of getting set up, trying it out. You can also go to elebase.io to learn more about kind of Elebase and some of the features that we talked about here.
Fantastic.
But
And as we
don't
have
hesitate to send me an email at john@elebase.io.
Great. And when we do post the recording, we'll make sure to share some of the links as well that folks are requesting. Maybe just a few super short questions, John. Is there a limit on the number of people who can contribute to a data set?
There isn't actually. So Elebase was sort of designed for this idea of large groups of people building data sets kind of collaboratively. And so with Elebase, actually, it's Elebase is you pay for usage, not for users. It's a little bit like the Mapbox model.
Nice. And then finally, one question from Mark: is Elebase built upon an existing database engine such as Postgres or PostGIS?
So Elebase does use, it's actually built on Postgres and PostGIS, but it also has a few other data. There's some other stuff going on beyond the hoods, beyond just the Postgres.
Mm-hmm. That's where the magic happens. Well, wonderful. John, thank you. We've got to end on time so that folks can get to the next community presentation, but I think you've got a lot of folks who want to follow up with you. And thank you so much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks. I really appreciate it, Marina, and I'm excited to talk to anybody who would like to learn more.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you at the next community presentation.